Hi, my friends. It looks like we're in the last chapter of Jeremiah. So this is chapter 52, and it's about Zedekiah rebels. Jerusalem is besieged and taken. Zedekiah's sons killed, and the captives carried away. Okay, so Zedekiah was 120 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah, Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For though the anger of the Lord, it came to pass to Jerusalem and Judah, till he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. Then it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 11th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar's king of Babylon came, he and all his army, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, built forts against it round about. So the city was besieged into the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And in the 4th month of the 9th day of the month, the famine was sore in the city, so that there was no bread for the people of the land. And then the city was broken up, and the men of war fled and went forth out of the city by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, which was by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were by the city round about, and they went by the way of the plain. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. Then they took the king and carried him up upon the king of Babylon to Ribnah in the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment upon them. And the king of Babylon slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. He slew also all the princes of Judah in Ribnah. Then he put out the eyes of Zedekiah, the king of Babylon, bound him in chains, and carried him to Babylon, and put him in prison until the day of his death. Now in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, which was in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem, and burnt the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all the house of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men burned he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the captain of the guard broke down the walls of Jerusalem round about. The Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive certain of the poor of the people, and a residue of the people that remained in the city, and those that fell away, and fell to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the multitude. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left certain of the poor of the land for vine-dressers and for husbandmen, and also the pillars of brass that were in the house of the Lord, and the bases, and the brass and sea that was in the house of the Lord. The Chaldeans carried away all the brass of them to Babylon. The Chaldons also, and the shovels, the snuffers, the bowls, the spoons, the vessels, the brass, wherewithin they ministered, took they away. And the basins, and the fire pans, and the bowls, and the cauldrons, and the candlesticks, and the spoons, and the cups, that which is of gold in gold, that was of silver in silver, and took the captains of the guard away. The 2 pillars, 1 sea, 12 brazen bulls that were under the bases, which King Solomon had made in the house of the Lord, the brass and all the vessels was without weight. They're very, very heavy, and they concealed a hidden room underneath, by the way. Anyway, I talked about that in another video. The chatapir of brass was upon it. The height of one chatapir was 5 cubits, with about as tall as a guy, okay? 6 feet maybe. And the network of pomegranates upon the chatopiers round about all of brass. The second pillar also, and the pomegranates were like unto these. And they were 96 pomegranates on a side, and all the pomegranates up on the network were 100 round about. And the captain of the guard took Zedekiah, the chief priest, and Zephaniah, the second priest, and the 3 keepers of the door. He also took out of the city a eunuch, which had the charge of men of war, and 7 men of them that were near the king's person, which were found in the city, and the principal scribe of the host, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land that were found in the midst of the city. So Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took them and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. The king of Babylon smote them and put them to death in Riblah, in the land of Hamath. Then Judah was carried away captive out of his own land. This is the people whom Nebuchadnezzar carried away captive in the 7th year, 3,000 Jews, 3 and 20. In the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar, he carried away captive from Jerusalem 832 persons. In the 23rd year of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away the captive of the Jews 745 persons. All the persons were 4,600. And it came to pass in the 7th and 30th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin, the king of Judah, in the 12th month, in the 25th day of the month, that Evil-Merodach, king of Babylon, in the 1st year of his reign, lifted up his head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, and brought him forth out of prison, spoke kindly unto him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon. Changed his prison garments, and he did continually eat bread before him all the days of his life. So he was found in the king's favor. And for his diet there was a continued diet given him of the king of Babylon every day, a portion until the day of his death, all the days of his life. So even though he couldn't see, at least, he was kept until his death. All right, so now we're in the Lamentations of Jeremiah, which is a short book. Let's see if I have anything on that. Let's see here. Yeah, I have a little bit here. The Lamentations, the theme is a series of dirges in the form of an acrostic written as it is a national funeral portraying the capture and destruction of Jerusalem. In the Septuagint version, the following introductory words are found. And it came to pass, after Israel was led into captivity, that Jeremiah sat weeping and lamenting, and lamented his lamentations over Jerusalem. In the Hebrew Scriptures, chapter 1, 2, 4, and 5, which have 22 verses, each verse begins with one of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet in order. Interesting. In chapter 3, the first 3 verses begin with Aleph, the second 3 with Beth, and so on throughout. The 5th chapter has 22 verses, but no acrostic. Synopsis of the book. The ruin of Jerusalem, the misery of the exiles because of their sins. Jehovah, the ancient defender of Israel, has given up his people to their awful fate. Jeremiah grieved over the affliction of his people, his trust in God, his own persecution. The former glory of Israel contrasted with their present misery, a prayer for mercy. And the key verses are chapter 1, verse 12. And then we're in the book of Ezekiel. Okay, and let's put that right back so I don't lose it. Okay, all right. So I can start that, chapter 1 of Lamentations of Jeremiah. So it starts off with, how doth the city solitary that was full of people, how is she had become a widow, that she was great among the nations and princesses among the provinces, how is she become a tributary? She weepeth sore in the night, her tears are on her cheeks. Among all of her lovers she hath none to comfort her. All of her friends have dealt treacherously with her, they are become her enemies. Judah is gone into captivity because of affliction and because of great servitude. She dwelleth among the heathen, she findeth no rest. All of her persecutors overtook her between the straits. The ways of Zion do mourn, because none come to the solemn forest. All her gates are desolate. Her priests sigh, her virgins are afflicted. She is in bitterness. Her adversaries are the chief, her enemies prosper, for the Lord hath afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children are gone into captivity before the enemy. And from the daughter of Zion all of her beauty is departed. Her princesses are become like harts, Harts, that find no pasture, and they are gone without strength before the pursuer. Jerusalem remembered in the days of her affliction and her miseries all her pleasant things that she had in the days of old, when her people fell into the land, into the hand of the enemy, and none did help her. The adversaries saw her and did mock at her Sabbaths. Jerusalem hath grievously sinned, therefore she is removed, and all the honor of her despised her, because they have seen her naked. Yea, she sighed and turneth backward. Her filthiness is in her skirts. She remembereth not her last end, therefore she came down wonderfully. She had no comforter. O Lord, behold my affliction, for the enemy hath magnified himself. The adversary hath spread out his hand upon her pleasant things, for she had seen that the heathen entered into her sanctuary, whom thou didst commanded that they should not enter into thy congregation. All of her people sighed, and they broke bread, and they gave their pleasant things for meat, to relieve the soul. See, O Lord, and consider, for I am become vile. Verse 12, it is nothing to you, all ye that pass by. Behold, and see if there be any sorrow like unto my sorrow, which is done unto me, wherein the Lord hath afflicted me in the day of his fierce anger. From above hath he sent fire to my bones, and it prevaileth against them. He hath spread a net for my feet. He hath turned me back. He hath made me desolate and faint all the day. The yoke of my transgression is bound by hand, and they that wreathed and come up upon my neck. He hath made my strength to fall. The Lord hath delivered me into their hands, for whom I am not able to rise up. The Lord hath trodden under foot all my mighty men. In the midst of me he hath called the assembly against me to crush my young men. And the Lord hath trodden the virgin, the daughter of Judah, as in a winepress. For these things I weep. Mine eye runneth down with water, because the Comforter that should relieve my soul is far from me. My children are desolate, because the enemy prevailed. Zion spreadeth forth her hands, and there is none to comfort her. The Lord hath commanded concerning Jacob that his adversaries should be round about him. Jerusalem is in a minstrous woman among them. And the Lord is righteous, for I have rebelled against his commandment. Hear, I pray you, people, and behold my sorrow. My virgins and my young men are gone into captivity. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, verse 19, and I'll finish at another time. Do hope that this reading is a blessing to you. Have a great and wonderful day. Leave me a comment. By the way, for those of you who want to have me subscribe to your music, I don't want to have music on my channel. I just want the Lord's word read without interference or impedance. So thank you so much for considering my channel for that. But no, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.